Well, hello. Today I'm going to show you my little bed mod that I did. I gave everybody a sneak peek of it in a previous video and I got a lot of interest on it. It was originally intended to be a temporary thing, but it's worked out really well for me. I've been using it for about 6 months now, and I'm probably going to keep using it for a little while longer. I'm going to show you what I did. Here we go. Okay, let's open it up. The one thing I do want to point out after I've done my little workout here is that pen, go ahead and keep it in the little position that it needs to be in. The first time I did this, I put the pen in a super safe place, and it took me at least half an hour to remember where that was. The other thing that I do want to note is that this particular modification is extremely simplistic. I did it with bits and pieces that I had on hand at the time, with very limited tools. So I'm showing it to you not as an end-all, be-all way to make a bed mod, but rather to show that you can do something super simple and get the same effect as going full-out fancy pants. At some point, I'm going to be redoing this with all sorts of other bits and pieces. But for now, this was my test. It's working out really well. I'm going to keep using it. FYI, you're going to need a bit for a Robertson screw, several sizes. So obviously the easiest thing to do would be replacing the little bit in the middle that goes like this. And originally, I was going to do that. I was going to make it shorter with the little bed system that will expand it, so I could have the option of it being shorter or pulling it all the way out for its full length. However, I have some specialty equipment that I needed to store. They're really long, and I decided to use this system on the side and make it more accessible, and I needed it to be a little bit higher. So this is the original piece that originally came in here. It was just screwed to the top of the cabinet, and it didn't fit on this. This is the bit that I've actually made. I figured it was basically a bit of wasted space, and so I wanted to recreate it with an open end to allow me to utilize the space. So I recreated the profile. I took away this crossbar here. I also made it shorter. At some point, I'm probably going to replace this piece here. By making it shorter, I was hoping to give the heating system a possibility of actually functioning more efficiently. My intention with all of this is not to alter existing pieces, but rather recreate the pieces that I want to change. I want to be able to put these all back in place if I ever sell it. So the first thing I did was take all the pieces out, including this piece. And then, as I mentioned before, I recreated the footprint of that piece with 1x3s. I actually raised the height on that side a little bit to accommodate what I'm going to be storing in there. But I used the same screw holes that the original unit had so that I wasn't damaging or creating any additional damage to the unit. So right here is where I have the screw that's attaching that piece to the unit in the old existing screw hole. I reinforced the corners because I don't have that cross beam there. But I did put some cross beams on the side adjacent to the bathroom because that's where I'm going to put some additional drawer systems. And that also allows me to put long pieces underneath and utilize the full length of my new cavity. So on the other side, because I didn't want to chop into it, I still wanted to be able to access it. So I did remove one of the divider panels, which was pretty tricky. Apparently these things are well built. When you start pulling it apart, you realize that. So anyway, I'm going to be putting a bed platform in there, and ultimately I'm going to put it on a gas strut system to allow me to raise it up and just get in there, which should be super easy. But here's the thing, because I made the frame on this side higher, I'm now going to have to level out the other side for a little bit of support. Now, I should note while I'm fiddling here that I used 1x2s because it's what I had available. I would not recommend that. I would definitely go with a 2x2 at least. So with the crossbeam, which is essentially what I built my bed frame out of, in place, you can see I have all these gaps on this side, which is not good. So I have to come up with a way to give this some structural support and fill in the gaps. So what I did was I just took a little piece of 1/4-inch poplar I had laying around, along with a piece of 1x2, and I took the 1x2 and just notched the corners on both sides off to allow it to fit in the side. It fits snugly in the corners. It sits on the existing base, sits there and fits that curve. And I put my little 1/4-inch on top because that's what I needed for level. And there is my cross frame. So by doing that, I've leveled out my frame. It's fitting really snugly on the driver's side and the passenger side, but I still felt like I needed to have additional support in the middle. Had I been using something stronger, I would have left it like that. But because I used a 1x2 on my frame, I felt the need to support that. I didn't want to sit on the end of my bed and have the whole thing fall apart. So I ended up using bits and pieces I had laying around, and it's this bizarre, janky looking system that is basically a couple of pieces that I fashioned together to fit right over the notch right here on the cabinet. So I have a 1x3, a 1x2, and my little piece of 1/4-inch poplar. And essentially what I've done is make this little framework that will fit right over the edge of the cabinet. That way I'm not screwing into anything and I'm not damaging any existing cabinetry. I slide it right over and it's holding in place just fine. And this way, when I put my crossbeam back over, crossbeam is essentially my bed frame, everything's really sturdy and locked in place and level. And I extended this piece so that its length is parallel to the other side. So I'm going to show you how I put the bed frame together. I don't know which camera to look at because there's 2 of them today. All right, let's get to it. So this is the fun part. It's where I get to play with tools. But basically I used, as I said, I used what I had, which was 1x2s, a couple of them. I built a very simple frame. Don't forget to use your safety glasses. And I've got this all marked up. And we're gonna go ahead, do some cuts. So the other thing that's really important, because I'm using such small wood, is I drilled pilot holes for every single screw that I was putting in here. So it's a little laborious, but it absolutely will save time when it comes down to putting everything together. So my frame was built inside the vehicle. I would not recommend doing that. I did it because I built this little section to hold something very specific, and I needed that entire amount of width inside to do so. So I would recommend either building your frame a little bit shorter and having a support structure on the side, or build it so that it can flip up. I mean, essentially you can repeat the frame that existed originally in the Hymer, and have an arm that would extend to this and you'd be able to use it. However, frame is in. Everything's level, support structure underneath is good. Now I needed something for the top. I did not want to use a solid piece of wood because I want to have air ventilation for the mattress. If you do use something solid, then I recommend that you use the Foley system or something like that, because it is very beneficial for airflow. It also makes things pretty comfy. Ultimately, I probably will end up using that. I looked into just chopping down wood and using it, but I found something on Amazon that was actually really inexpensive. It's a bed frame thing, basically, and it's all the slats that are already on the webbing, and a 20 size was the perfect size for me. So literally I was able to just expand it over the entire frame and call it a day. The only thing I did have to do is the two corners. I had to do a little angle cut so that I didn't have an issue with it on the side of the vehicle. And then the other thing you will notice that I've done is once I arranged it on here, I pre-drilled holes for where my screws are going to go. But basically I anchored both ends first on my frame, and then I went ahead, lined everything up, and just screwed the whole thing in place. Very easy. On my frame, and then I went ahead, lined everything up, and just screwed the whole thing in place. Very easy. Comes down right away. Oops. So the frame is in place, and one of the whole points of this frame was to now give myself this standing room in front of the curtain, which also allowed me to put a shelving unit in the bay.
Oh yeah.
These are really nice. I found them at the Container Store. I'm going to give the information for them in the description area of the video. You might be able to find them elsewhere. They were a little pricey, but for what they do, I was very happy to spend a little extra. So these are single units, and you can clip them together, basically making a solid piece. They also have plastic drawers, which come in and out very easily. My whole goal was to make a very functional system for me to bring clothing in and out of the vehicle. I don't live in it full time. I take it on trips, and I didn't want to have to worry about packing suitcases or packing bags or anything like that. So the systems that I've put in place in the vehicle allow me to pack and go really quickly. So I can pack inside the house, and then I can bring the drawers and just literally put them into the frame system, and I'm good to go, and do the reverse when I'm done. So these I really liked because they're plastic, they're lightweight, and I'm gonna show you the system inside. Hopefully you'll see it. They have this framework on the bottom, which is very handy because it allowed me to utilize this area for securing it to the framework that I've built in the vehicle. And actually what I ended up doing was making 4 little holes in the corner, and I just literally took screws on the inside and screwed in those holes into my framework. These are very, very secure, and the drawers hold in place. I would not recommend putting anything super heavy in the drawers. If you are prone to taking corners pretty steeply or fast, there is a possibility they're going to open. There's no locking mechanism. I also left a little gap on this particular drawer to allow for, I have a little doggy gate that I keep there. It also allows the curtain to store back there. But this gives me a really nice equivalent of a bedstand or a little laptop desk, or any number of uses. And these are wider ones. I'm going to list, they come in 3 different sizes. I used the wider ones on this size, and on the other side I used a combination of narrow ones and baskets that fit on the top as well. So the whole system works out really, really well. The narrow ones, FYI, fit in the hanging closet space. So if you're looking to turn those into shelving system without having to build shelves, very handy to do it that way. The other thing that I've done in the closet is I've literally taken one of those hanging fabric shoe racks and just hung that in the closet and rolled my clothes in that. That works out really, really well. So these are actually the tubs that I used on the passenger side. Just thought I would show you. I have two different depths here. These are the skinnier ones. And then I put a basket on top of this one, and the lip of this holds the basket in place. So the wall for the kitchen is right here. Works out really well. I actually mounted both of these on roller tracks, and this whole unit is a drawer in and of itself. And that essentially allows me to access the area underneath with the little riser lip, and I keep all sorts of bits and pieces in there, and nobody knows it's even a drawer. So that's what I use on the other side. I'm going to go and install it. So that's my little bed in a bag, as it were. I'm going to go ahead and rig these all in place, and then I'll show you what I did with the mattress. So the mattress that I used was, whoops, this one. It's a Lucid, and it's a 4-inch mattress. I ended up wanting to make a smaller size, so I got a twin. But the beautiful thing about these is they fold, and they fold exactly in the same position as the Hymer mattresses do. I know that a lot of people found the Hymers to be a little bit stiff. This is much softer. I'm finding it very comfortable. I've been using it for 6 months. I do use it with a gel topper, which is something that I put on the original Hymer mattress to make that one a little bit more comfortable. But I love it because it comes out really easily, and you can just replace your existing mattress with the size that you need. Also, I should note that this little bed setup I'm showing you, I did in the 1.0, and I ended up using a double or a twin. You could still do it with a full size and gain some space on the end. And obviously, if you're doing this on a 2.0 and you think a queen mattress is sufficient and you're sleeping side to side, you could do the same thing and still gain a little bit of extra room in the front area. So, there you have it. Let's get to it and empty this guy out. I actually made this bed to not be broken down, so I put all of my pieces as one big unit and then put it inside the RV. So this is that 4-inch mattress that I was talking about, and I had a nice big waffle cover on the original Hymer, which I ended up putting on this as well. I just cut it down. Let me go get it. This made a huge difference. You could be done with it at this point, but I chose to put a mattress cover on mine. And then I went ahead and covered it with a fitted sheet just for protection. I actually use a fitted sheet. I kind of mummified the whole mattress, and that just stays on. And I use quilts and stuff on top of that, which is what I launder. But these particular sheets had these lovely little elastic pieces in the corners, and it really holds well onto the mattress. So I highly recommend these. I think I purchased these at Target. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do this, and we'll get this puppy in the RV. So I almost forgot to show you the little trick that I did when I raised the bed was create those little sliding shelving units down here. I'm showing you on this end. I normally have one on both ends. So originally I found this boot tray. I think it was at Walmart. They have them at Target. I ended up actually cutting off this edge so that it would fit. But literally, because I raised the bed, I can now slide things on these pieces that would traditionally hold the bed frame in place. And I was at IKEA recently and I found this tray there, which is even better. A white plastic tray, and it slides beautifully. I have one on each end. As you know, it ends up being an additional counter space for me on the other side. And on this side, if I have wet bits and pieces when I'm traveling, I put them in here to dry off. Very, very handy. So there you have it, my little bed. It's very comfy. I'm very happy I did this. I hope some of you found it helpful. I'm sure there's all sorts of mods out there, and I'm very curious to see them. So go ahead and let me know what you've done. Till next time, bye-bye. Safe place of Alfie's is where I leave him when I leave him in the vehicle alone. So I put his gate up, I pull a curtain, and I set the air conditioner to run. When it turns on, it kind of funnels down the curtain and goes through that hole that I've created now by shortening the bed. And it's very effective at keeping that temperature controlled back there. Anyway,